Welcome back to another episode of Thinking That Matters. I'm Elizabeth Mahusay, and I am here with my friend, my colleague. We go way back, Rich Cavaness, who is going to take the lead on this particular episode as we dive in on our role as coaches in the business space.
Well, I appreciate that, Elizabeth, and welcome everybody to the podcast today. It's really an honor, and I'm always honored and blessed to work alongside you and be with you. I don't think a lot of people, you may not know this about Elizabeth, but she is a rock star. And I think I just saw a commercial where Travis Barker said, don't ever use that word when you're not a rock star, right? But anyway, she is a rock star. She really is a rock star when it comes to building teams, leadership, coaching, and just coaching in general, especially within the business community. So I'm very excited about having her here. She has a lot of experience in the direct selling industry, and she's just exceptional at team building. And so I'm very excited about talking to her more about that, and then how she runs her coaching business, because it's very interesting to hear how she does that, because she's very, very, very successful at it.
You know, I appreciate you bringing up, I hadn't thought about it, I appreciate you bringing up the direct sales background, because I actually believe that my 19 years spent in the direct sales space, building teams, building leaders, is a key component to what I bring into my coaching. Because I like to say to people, when you're operating within direct sales space, these people don't work for you. They're not your employee. They're not a salaried person. They are an individual that chooses to follow you.
Yep.
And you have to give them something that is worthy of engagement, and you have to be a person worthy of following. So that, I mean, really, you learn a lot the hard way.
You know, Robert Kiyosaki says that the best way to really learn business is to be part of direct sales network marketing, because he says it's the best business model to really learn the things that you need to in business. I remember when I was probably in my early 20s, and I got involved with Worldwide, I think it was called Worldwide Dream Builders or something, but in effect it was Amway, and it affiliated with Amway. But I'm telling you, I look back on that now, and also I had a little stint with Manatech. Because I'm naturally introverted, and I'm happy reading a book, I'm happy writing a book, but I'm happy being by myself. And so it really taught me to set appointments. It taught me to get out of my comfort zone and set goals and things like that. So I'm beyond grateful. And so I think that's one of the strengths that you have, is you're bringing that into your coaching. And it's very obvious, because your business is growing. So let's touch on a couple things here. So kind of after COVID, all right, we're kind of, because you and I are in the same coaching space together, but I want to hear your perspective. But after COVID, what's the environment? What do you kind of see as if you were to take like the temperature of business in general, and based on your coaching, where do you see things at today?
I think there is an interesting kaleidoscope, so to speak, of what I see. Something that I think is very clear, that there are people who spent a significant amount of time isolated by themselves. They got into habits, for some into ruts that were not and still are not serving them well. And they're now in the world that we are now, either fighting against changing to adjust, or they're trying to bury their head in the sand to just try to keep doing, what they had been doing, or how they adjusted because of COVID. And then you have folks that are really embracing the change that is happening right now, and it's really making a difference for them. Those are some of the things that I'm seeing in the business space right now.
So what industries, for you in particular, Elizabeth, what industries do you see that seem to be drawn to having a sales and business coach right now, a leadership coach? What are you seeing as
Definitely, I see it in the financial advising space, specifically in wealth building or wealth management. I do see that.
is that like the Edward Jones? Is that
Morgan
like Morgan
Stanley,
Stanley? Okay.
yes,
All
Mass
right.
Mutual,
Yep.
Merrill Lynch, like
Yeah.
a lot of your larger, well-known names in that space, and you know, that mindset that they bring to it of just recognizing how valuable the outside perspective is, it really is exuded in that space. And you'll know it too, because like a Morgan Stanley, for example, they have an entire coaching division. They have both internal resources and they have approved third-party resources, of which Southwestern Consulting is one. And they really want to pave a pathway
Yes.
for their advisors to be able to engage in coaching.
I have a large insurance company that I happen to be associated with through Southwestern, and I coach one of their employees as well. And so I see that, and I always think it's so great to see corporations actually embrace
Yes.
coaching because, quite frankly, they're the ones that are actually really growing and moving forward. So what do you? When we talk about after COVID, I find it such an interesting time because you hit on some key points about the isolation. I really find that people are having a really hard time getting out of their comfort zone today, and I believe that's happened because everybody kind of got comfortable, everybody was at home, everybody was kind of in their safe place. And you and I both know as coaches that being in a safe place is not a place for growth, not in business. You can't be safe. If you use that word in your business, I can already tell
Likely you're not growing.
You're not growing, and you need a coach.
That's
Because
right.
if you're like, oh boy, I feel really good, I feel safe today, I'm like, okay, we need to talk to you about coaching.
Or the word comfortable,
Yeah,
right? I'm
comfortable.
comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what are some things that you do as a coach to help people to kind of get outside of their comfort zone? What are some things that you're doing in your coaching business to help people with that?
Yeah, of course, all good coaches are asking great questions. I mean, part of it is just coming prepared to a coaching session with knowing I need to ask over tell. Because most people, especially leaders, it is one of the biggest struggles in our mind, we think the fastest path to where we want to get or where we need this person to get is I'm just going to tell you what to do. And a coach could approach that way with a client. But the bottom line is when we tell, we may get a yes, but it's a false yes. We're not developing buy-in. We're not cultivating a sense of the need to change. And so I would say the first thing is coming prepared to ask a lot of questions. The other thing, and this is just something I have to work on a regular basis, is to try to remove judgment from my mindset around. So I ask a question and I need to be open and prepared for whatever their response is without judgment. And I would also add without opinion, because Rich, you and I have known each other a very long time. Do I lack for opinion?
Nope, not at all. Nope, not at all.
I thought he was going to go, I refuse to answer.
No, we're good enough friends. I can answer
That's
that.
right. That's right. Well, because I know it. And so I believe that the first is, it's you're asking rather than telling. Secondly, you're withholding judgment and opinion, because the goal is to get the client to really engage what they're thinking, what they're feeling, where they are, so that they can determine the best course of action that needs to be taken. Because see, that whole thing think about that we were comfortable, we were safe during that whole engagement of when we were shut down. People were being told what they could and could not do. They were being told where they could go. They were being told. So it was very easy to fall into just tell me what to do. And the challenge then happens is when you're no longer being told what to do, that is a recipe for either we sit back in comfort and we look for safety, or we're willing to press out of that. We're willing to push out of that into discomfort, into the pressure of not knowing the unknown. And I think that same mindset is the difference between what they would say. You mentioned network marketing and direct sales. One of the terms that Dr. Tom Barrett uses in his book, Dare to Dream, Work to Win, and also Success Happens, which is around network marketing, he talks about the bureaucratic mindset or the entrepreneurial mindset. The bureaucratic mindset says, tell me what to do, when to do it, how to do it. The entrepreneurial mindset's like, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
When
like
can I do
the
it?
difference between being an employee versus a business owner.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And so those are some of the aspects. And then you take that microcosm, and now you're trying to coach a leader how to cultivate people to have a growth mindset.
Yes. Let's talk a little bit about leadership, because I know that you've done a lot of leadership coaching over the years. What are you finding in your coaching experience? What are you finding as kind of a couple key areas that people lack when it comes to really building their leadership skills?
Two key areas, Rich, that I think on building their leadership skills. I think the first is a leader doesn't know what they don't know. Right. Yeah. So if a leader is not engaged in some type of outside perspective, obviously we do that through coaching, but something, then oftentimes they just don't know what they don't know. They literally are blind to it, which is why we call it a blind spot. And those blind spots are very much a hindrance to growth, right? So that's the first thing that I would say. The second thing that I would say is that I think a lot of leaders struggle to communicate effectively what it actually takes to be successful in, let's say, their industry or in what they're wanting. So take a financial advisor who has a junior advisor, and they're trying to train them up. Well, oftentimes the financial advisor will go, I don't get it. Why can't you just do it? Right? Like, just do this, this, and then this will happen, because that's been their experience. But they lack the ability to articulate it or to break it down or to allow someone who maybe thinks differently, approaches differently the problem process. They struggle to communicate it effectively in a way that allows, let's say, that junior advisor to really be able to grow effectively. So now we create this frustration both for the main financial advisor and the junior financial advisor, and then that creates a whole nother set of problems.
Absolutely. I love what you're talking about there, especially about the whole concept of it kind of reminds me a little bit of the law of the lid.
Absolutely.
Where from John Maxwell's book, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. It's really interesting to me, because I find that a lot of times when people reach a certain level, it's almost kind of like they feel like they've arrived. And what I've really noticed is, especially the leaders that I'm coaching, the ones that are really great leaders are the ones that feel that they haven't arrived. They know that, and they're building skills all the time. And, we talked about change and how much the marketplace is changing today. I mean, AI is coming in, and so,
yes.
If you're not asking questions about AI and how it can affect your business and what it's going to do to your business and how can you use it as an opportunity, you're not asking the right questions, because that's the new thing. But leaders always are trying to build their skills and really trying to because you're not if you're not really a leader if you don't have followers, and if people aren't wanting to follow you, then you have to start asking yourself questions of
what's the reason for that?
What's the reason for that? And so, I can really, really appreciate that. So I'm just curious. So, what do you notice is the biggest difference between, if we were to use a business perspective, somebody who's commission-based, 100% maybe, versus somebody who's salaried? How would you personally coach them differently? I mean, to me, it's a completely different mindset, because one person is basically working, they're trading time for money, right? That would be like an employee sort of thing. And then the other person is basically having to hunt and having to go out there and get after it. What do you find is the difference in the way that you would coach those people?
Of course, the answer to that might also depend on, are they in a leadership role or are they not?
Yes.
So
let's say they're in a leadership role.
okay. So from a standpoint of someone who is commission-based, I always work off of first what their goals are.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't want to coach someone to a level that is not actually their goal. It is to help them have clarity around what their goal is, and then coach them to not only reach, but ideally to exceed those goals. And you said the word, they have to be a hunter. As a commission-based person, I mean, I just lay it out bluntly. Don't work, don't eat.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're completely commission-based, then if you're not working, you're going hungry.
You need to be out. You need to be hustling every
That's
day.
right. That's right. And so for a commission-based person, there's mindset work. It's the mindset around, you've got to have clarity of vision, what you need. You've got to reverse engineer the goals. You've got to have a mindset of really being willing to push past the frustration, push past the no's, push past the delayed gratification that commission-based sales are, especially if it's a longer sales cycle, depending on the size of the ticket item that someone is selling or whatever that looks like. So there's mindset work around that. Secondly, there's time work around that, because we've got to have the right mindset, but we've got to be really good with our time. Because oftentimes in the commission-based space, often they can be so focused on hunting and so unfocused on what I'm going to call support pieces that keep the train running, so to speak. And now that you have to hire that out, right? And even if you hire it out, you have to train it out so that it can be done well. So the mindset, the time management piece.
Yes.
And then you get into some more of the technical, looking at their metrics, how they're doing, and really diving in on, from a sales aspect,
Their activity level on a daily basis.
Yes. So you're getting into more technical sales pieces.
Yeah, for
now,
sure.
On the salaried based person, guess where we start? It's still mindset, right? Because it's actually getting them to a mindset of my position, what my boundaries are, what was I hired to do, and what are the metrics that show I'm doing it well. And then we look at the time. How are we using our time in order to accomplish those things which have been set out for us as that salary-based employee? So it's still the mindset piece. It's still the time piece. And then within that, depending on what they've been asked to accomplish, there's probably going to be some skills, some motivation, some systems, as we talk about in Southwestern Consulting, that are going to need to be addressed to help them stay on track. Because while they don't need to be hunting per se, there are expectations being placed on them to fulfill what they're being asked to do.
Yeah, that brings up a really good point, because you talked about the scheduling. And do you find, Elizabeth, that one of the biggest issues that people have that you coach is just the time management piece?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I find it too. And when you work with people and you really help them improve that, it's the single greatest factor in really helping them. Like when I was coaching a young guy that works for a very large company here locally in the cleaning space, and I've been working with him on scheduling, and man alive, it has changed his whole focus, because every single day he has blocked out time that he's going to be prospecting and following up with people, and then he's got time where he's going to be putting together quotes, and he's kind of got his whole day just kind of managed. Yeah. And he says every time, man, the scheduling has just helped me so much. So I'm just curious, why do you think that piece is the the challenge for so many people? What is it about the time management piece?
We could talk about that for hours. The initial, like what I would call a gut punch thought process around that is, so your question was, why is that such an issue for the leader or for the person? I believe it's such an issue because it's an easy excuse. I can say, I don't have enough time.
Yeah.
I can say, I'm too busy. I can say, that takes too long. It's an easy out as far as an excuse, because we intuitively know as humans, we can't control the passage of time. The clock is ticking, right? No matter what. So I think it becomes an easy excuse for people, and to excuse their lack of action, to excuse their the maybe more complacent mindset that they bring to something.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. That right there is worth this podcast. That's some good stuff right there. So I know that you have a lot of coaching clients currently that are in the wealth management and financial advising space. So give me kind of like a couple things that you've noticed, consistent things that in that space are areas where you see weakness.
One for sure is that, wealth management folks, they typically are starting as a junior advisor. They either have been, a book has been parsed, a portion of a book has been parsed over to them to work on. So in other words, they do this relationship transfer, and now they begin to build relationship with now this portion of the book. And in the meantime, they're gaining skill and being able to build their own book of business as well. So part of it is that once they get to a place where they now need their own junior advisor, right? They've built, millions and millions and millions, maybe to $1 billion of a portfolio, and now they need to surround themselves with junior advisors, other advisors, folks who are working on the operations side, and they lack leadership. They have not, in their role as a relationship manager, right? That didn't include, how do I lead people? How do I develop and develop skill? How do I translate maybe what I do incredibly well to someone who it doesn't come as easily to them? So the leadership piece is something that I consistently see across the board in the wealth management space as an area where they're hungry to grow in that space. So that would definitely be one piece, and I think probably a high source of frustration sometimes too, because as you and I both know, leading people is one of the biggest challenges we will ever face as a business owner, as a business developer, is leading people. I worked under a CEO for many years in that direct sales space, and he would always say that, this business, 80% is amazing and 20% is for the birds. And that 20% is about the people, I mean? Like it's the people that create the challenge. And so I would definitely say that is probably, a highlight. The second thing that I see leaders in the wealth management space hungry for is the outside perspective. They are, if they're considered a wealth manager, which means they are very good at not only acquiring assets under management, growing assets under management, adding to the assets under management that they already have. They're obviously very skilled in that space. They can be so head down in the numbers and doing the things that have allowed them to build that wealth business that they value the outside perspective. They value the questions being asked of them. And here's the reason why. So many of them do not want to lose their families, their marriages, who they are as people to the growth of the business.
And it's interesting you mentioned that. If you look at a lot of the movies that are out there about wealth managers, what does it always show? It shows the real negative side of it, right?
Yeah.
They do drugs. They're into, their families are falling apart. Their life is complete chaos, right? And they do weird stuff to try to keep themselves pumped up and that kind of thing. And I think it's an incredibly, and you think about what they must go through, because just the ups and downs of the market, and then dealing with people calling on the phone of, hey,
the ups and downs of the market.
Yeah, I mean, it's just got to be really difficult at times. So, let me ask you this: do you find that a lot of wealth advisors and financial advisors, do you see them as like self-employed, or do you see them as business owners in general?
That's a great question. I've seen both.
Okay.
I've seen both. I've seen wealth managers that are very much in the self-employed mindset. And they vacillate between, I've got this team, and in order to build a business, I need the team, but I really don't like having the team. So I'd rather be without the team, right? So that's it. It's hard for them to break out of that self-employed space. And then, I work with executives that, are managing billions under management. And it's very much about business development, business growth, putting people in the right places, developing the core competencies within the team. But I think that depending on their affiliation or association, I would say that there's probably more struggling on the self-employed mindset side. Yeah. And I'm not saying that they want to stay there, but I think that can be easy. I'll say it that way. It can be easy to operate within a silo. And, and it's, as you and I both know, it's very tough to actually build a growing, thriving business if you're operating within a silo mentality.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, This has been a great time together, Elizabeth, and I'm really glad that hopefully people have gotten some really good nuggets from you, because I look up to you as a coach.
Thank you.
You're definitely a mentor of mine. I'm proud to be able to say to people that Elizabeth Mahusay is my coach, and so I do appreciate that very much. But I love the fact that you're kind of specializing in that financial services, wealth management field. I think that's a great field and a great space for you. And one thing that people need to realize too, especially coaches out there that might be watching this, is that instead of trying to be a generalist, it's always good to try to find what is it that you do well. And for me, it's coaching insurance agency owners. For Elizabeth, seems like
we're definitely moving in that direction for sure.
So it's really important. I think people really make a lot more money, and I think people can help people more when they focus on what they do really well, and then helping people in that space.
Yeah,
so
anyway,
thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for having us. And I think you're going to actually do the closeout of
this. So I just want to encourage you that it's so important in this space of thinking and business building, really no matter your industry, but especially if you're watching or listening and you're in the financial advising or wealth management space, that you are constantly cultivating thinking that matters. Because I like to say, when you cultivate thinking that matters, you can live a life and build a business, and we'll create and build a wonderful team that truly matters.